think I love her. She's always singing songs and I sing along. I think I love her. I think I love her. She's always going out and I tag along. I wait in the cold at her instigation, freezing before the big ideas. A little laugh, a little look, a little dilation. Her voice is the only thing I hear. I don't wanna shout. I think I love her. I think I love her. She's always singing songs and I sing along. I think I love her. I think I love her. She's always going out and I tag along. I hold her hand at her instigation, praying that it will never end. A little miss, a little dress, a nice occasion. That is where my little story ends.
Welcome, everybody. We are back at the LCK Spring 2020. It is me, Valdez, with a very special guest, LS Lesnek. How are you doing, man? Today is an awesome day. We got some huge games, 2 great matchups between 4 of the best teams, actually, now in Korea.
Yeah, and I mean, it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah.
You know what else is gonna be exciting?
What else?
Soraka picks.
Soraka?
Yeah.
How about Ornn? Is that something you're excited
Ornn
for?
is something I'm looking forward to as
Okay.
well.
Yeah. That's
See if the trend continues here today.
Ornn is something that I feel like Korea finally did pick up on. You know, we are getting there. We've seen a lot of Ornn picks. It's been pretty fun to watch him just rise up like this, and apparently he's doing even better on 10-4. So we'll see how that does go. But should be a great day. We got Sandbox up against Afreeca, and then Gen.G up against Dragon X. So as we mentioned, some of the best teams that we do have here should be pretty refreshing after yesterday, which was exciting in a different manner, you might say. You guys had a good cast.
You
but
two
I don't
like
know.
watching grass grow at the park.
You know, it was fun for me to listen to.
I went back to the hotel and I slapped some paint on a piece of paper and I watched it dry, and then I started getting some ambition to cast it.
Your trusty paint that you just keep, just in case you get a little bit too bored with the games that go on. Yeah. You should show up one time with like a paintbrush and just like when things start going wrong, just like start painting on a piece of paper.
like Bob Ross and just hold it up.
Just start painting Morello in the corner with a giant
whoa,
red
whoa,
X.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
With an X, with a red X.
We're going to go to the standings really quick.
Yeah.
Now remember, today we're kicking things off Sandbox versus Afreeca, and so we will have Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Anakin in the top lane. As Summit,
yes, we will.
The person that he was under for so long, it's going to be the rematch from the Kespa Cup, where really Keen just manhandled him, which is really, really hard to do in top lane. I think Summit is looking like the best top laner in the league.
Yeah.
So far, though, in 2020, I don't even actually think that it's really that close.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, obviously the top lane is going to be the main attraction of this one. Right now, Sandbox, unfortunately, down in 1-3. We still call this an awesome matchup. It does feel a little bit like Summit and Buddies, you know? And we'll have to see if the rest of the team can get kind of on his level, as we're going to take another look here at the points of the match. Coming over here, we need a W. Sandbox's first 3-match losing streak in LCK versus Afreeca's 3-match winning streak has stopped.
yeah, I mean, Sandbox, really, even when they've gotten some of the advantages, they've thrown it harder than deft. And that is really difficult to do.
Yeah.
Like,
He's great at baseball.
If you remember one of those throws where they had just killed one of the members, Baron was up, and they chose to chase inside of narrow corridors. With the death timers being as long as they were, they just completely threw everything away. Kespa Cup Finals, Sandbox got 0-3'd. And like I was mentioning, this is the rematch, so we'll see what can end up happening here. Next point of the match, Summit feels small against Keen. Now, obviously, that's alluding to the fact that, well, Summit did look really weak and vulnerable in the Kespa Cup series against him. Ornn is correct, 19-8, 70.4%
Also,
win rate.
by the way, in the top lane, he's 14-4. So you know, in the lane where he's picked for most of the time. Obviously, the flex is part of why he is strong, but just his kit and everything that he does is the main reason.
Yeah.
And when he's put in the top lane, 14-4, that's almost 80% of the time that Ornn is winning.
Took us almost a year to
Yeah,
get
we
here.
got here finally.
I remember April last year, we were talking about Ornn on the broadcast, and we're finally here.
Yeah, we've made it, you know.
Sort of like an Ornn skin, you know, it just took some time.
These things take years after all, as we'll take another look at some of the stats here, as the one
Team
thing
Gold.
that Sandbox does have going for them is Team Gold at 20.
Yeah.
Everything else a little bit in shambles for now.
Win rate with Gold Blade, 40%. That is really insane to think about. They can consistently get ahead. They like to play 4 lane. They like to try to get advantages, and then they donk it off. They really punt it.
Yeah. They are not a stable team that will slowly push to a victory. If that's your style, I wouldn't recommend, you know, looking for them to win. But either way, we'll take another look here at Summit, just dunking on people as he does that on Kive, although I feel like Summit's not the only one to do that on Kive recently. As we'll take a look at the play with the teleports, as Homalife thinks they're getting a good fight, but they're actually being baited into it by Sandbox. Keep in mind that the score of this series was 2-0 in favor of Homalife.
Yeah.
So definitely something to think about, even though a lot of these early game fights can look like quality fights and good stuff for Sandbox. They don't end up with the wins a lot of the time.
And we'll have to see as well who's going to be starting for Sandbox in today's match. And honestly, I mean, you just see the highlights and you wonder what is really going wrong inside of their play. As right here, Keen, Superplex getting on to Deft. And Misfortune, yeah, I mean, you know what? Doesn't matter. Had the Prestige skin.
Yeah.
That's one way to look at it.
We gotta look good.
We'll see what kind of priority we actually get on to set and things of that nature. Probably going to have Aatrox picks come out here today as well.
Yeah. Sen has been strangely, for a new champion, kind of a comfort pick. We've seen a lot of it here. 19 picks so far. He's 9 and 10. I believe that's only in the top lane, actually. So he's been picked a bit more than that. A couple more times than that. So 21 times total. And so no doubt we'll see him up there as well in terms of presence. The key matchup, no surprise to anybody who has been following for the last couple of years. Summit up against Keen. 2 of the best, if not the very 2 best.
Yeah.
Top laners right now going head-to-head. If you're a top lane player or a fan of League of Legends, this is the matchup to watch.
Yeah, this might be one of the most exciting matchups actually in the LCK. The way that the meta is right now, the diversity that can exist up in top lane when Ornn and Soraka are not present. And even when they are present, seeing the approaches that teams take. And so, the matchup today, Summit has been on a tear, even if he does end up throwing later on. But Keen is looking a bit like a shadow of his former self so far in 2020.
Yeah, he's not necessarily as solid. He still will have pop-off moments, and it's obvious that his mechanics are still pretty good, but we do want to see him get back to that 100% Keen that we have seen in the past. So something to look forward to. You know, maybe can Summit take advantage of that and get an early lead in the top lane and perhaps get his team ahead. They really need it because so far a 1-3 start is actually not what a lot of people expected for this roster.
Yeah.
And just we saw a lot of the stats and what we've been saying about this team. They get early leads and then they throw them away. If they could be a little bit more consistent, this could definitely be like a top 6 team in the LCK. So looking forward to see if they do that tonight. We're taking a look here at the rosters. You guys will notice Gorilla is in, Dove is in, Leo amongst all of them as the kind of normal lineup you'd expect from Afreeca is coming out here. Fly is going to be starting all in, not coming in just yet.
Well,
and, yeah, everything else kind of looking the norm.
And it's nice to see that Dove is back and playing for Sandbox here today. As Fate did not look that good
No.
when he ended up coming out. We'll see what kind of draft approach Sandbox is also going to take. They are on the blue side, and there was a lot of very strong B1 picks in the current meta. Red is sort of having to ban almost the same few champions every single game. And so we're back to one of those metas. So panning over to Afreeca's lineup, and I like that they're the ones with the blue background.
Yeah.
They're the Jedi.
There you go.
Going on here, as Spirit will be in the jungle, like you said, Fly starting in the mid lane. There's Mystic. And I believe that he re-dyed his hair. So he's no longer Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan God.
So he went from blonde to blue to blonde?
I think he's blonde, blue to gray.
Oh, he's gray now?
Yeah. So I don't
He's trying to be that Gondalf for the team.
Ooh.
Come over the hill, maybe
Is he
he'll
gonna play
some
a mage today?
Soraka bot.
Don't get me excited.
The awesome gal in the bottom lane. Could happen. We have seen it before. And, yeah, Keen just taking a little yawn before the games get going. Hopefully that's not a foreshadowing for how these games will be played. Unfortunately, Korea has slowed down a little bit, so we'll have to see if maybe these two teams can ramp up the action, especially after yesterday, as we're already into match 25. It's already halfway through week 3. Feels like we're flying through.
Yeah.
Sandbox on red, Afreeca on blue, and Soraka. First ban on blue is always kind of interesting.
And that might just be because Summit refuses to maybe pick that champion, which is honestly a pretty big problem inside of the draft. Pantheon getting banged away. I think this is going to be something that we're going to see a lot in coming weeks. Pantheon's flexibility, top, mid, support, and jungle is, I really feel like, going to be something that starts plaguing the region.
Yeah, and we all know about Stopwatch. Well, he has that big barrier and the global ability to just be anywhere and protect. He can protect, he can attack, but he can also defense, which is really, really good. If
That's
you
golden.
are, if you're a champion that wants to be picked or banned a lot, that's
Now,
something you have to do.
Ornn not getting banned away is honestly just so insanely disrespectful. And so Sandbox, they should just B1 it.
Yeah, just slam it down.
No, they're gonna
Not in that way. I didn't say to suplex it, but they're gonna do it anyway.
His ultimate actually feels more like a pile driver.
Yeah,
But I'm not entirely sure. So let's see if Ornn can now. Yeah, all right. So Afreeca are going to be the ones to pick it up.
MF.
And honestly, when I see stuff like this, it's just so bizarre. And I know that we've been talking about on the broadcast. Well, what is leading them to these false conclusions about champions? Especially when, if you're really paying attention to the games and what's really happening, you see how obnoxiously powerful Soraka and Ornn have been. Ornn, obviously, we're going to see a lot more of than Soraka. And in the games where Soraka's lost, it wasn't because of Soraka. But in most of the games that they've won, it sure as hell was because of Soraka. So there's so many cases where it's so bizarre. And I remember I just tweeted out before this broadcast, there was a clip of Wolf, former SKT, prior to the rebranding, talking about some of the champions in the meta, and it was so bizarre to me.
Well, it's just a bit of an insight into how the Korean pro gamers are thinking about draft, and maybe part of the reason why we have had a lot of drafts the way we have had them for so long, as we get an Elise pick afterwards, which is kind of interesting here.
Elise coming in is really bizarre. Pairing it with Ornn is just so mismatched in the sense that Ornn obviously wants to scale, doesn't really need any sort of gank setup in a way that Elise would be ideally looking for, but it also hinders the Ornn a little bit against his lane opponent. They're able to itemize magic resistance more effectively, allows them to trade against him more reliably, as now Olaf is being banned away by Afreeca. Renekton banned away by Sandbox as a pretty bread and butter response, not only just to the Elise Renekton combo, but also Set, I guess, doesn't want to go up against it, potentially in top lane, but Afreeca, the Ornn has flex potential. And now Azir ends up getting banned away.
Yeah, Azir popping up a bit more. He's got a couple of wins under his belt in recent times. And so we will see that ban
Morgana?
picked every so often now.
So Afrika should likely just Morgana here on R4.
You got to handle the Kalista Thresh bottom lane.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one way to do it.
Morgana on R4 is really valuable, even though there's a lot of magic damage that Afrika would end up having. It would really shut down the Thresh as well as the Set because of the interaction on Set Superplex. But instead,
Jelly comes out with the big fist, and that's definitely interesting into a champion like Thresh.
so we're going to have the Blitzcrank against the Thresh down there. And so Afrika, they're sort of funneling in with the fire versus fire aspect, even though Sandbox showed B1, B2, B3, Set Kalista Thresh. Very limited in options. Obviously has to accelerate, has to come into you. They're all melee range. So definitely a bit surprising. And now, this Elise pick makes things very awkward because you see how low range everyone on Sandbox is, and so champions like Cassiopeia would be very ideal depending on what the enemy mid laner for Sandbox has to pick blind. And so Cassio would be very good, but unfortunately that would be way too much magic damage at this point. And so the Victor ends up coming out, and
Ooh.
Gangplank loses to Set.
Yeah.
So, oh, just end me. Just end me, Valdez.
Hey, they switched back, okay. We still have a chance here for GP, and it will be locked in.
So here's the thing. You drafted an Elise super early on in the rotation, and then you paired her with two champions that hate her existence. And
hate being on her team.
They hate being on her team.
Yeah.
So Gangplank doesn't want Elise. Ornn doesn't want Elise. When you're picking Ornn and you're wanting to pick Gangplank, you're wanting to scale, which is counterintuitive to picking an Elise. And there's a term that people will use that often means that Elise is supposed to help these champions get to that point. And whenever I hear that, I just think, well, that's not how that works entirely. There's a lot of other champions that can end up doing this for them. They could have picked Gragas.
Yeah, I was thinking the
Gragas
same
would
thing.
do everything Elise is trying to do, but better, scale better, offer the world in terms of value more. And so, honestly, Afrika's draft, it is a hot mess. It is really all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, Gragas obviously a lot better at team fighting and disruption and engage potential. Elise, more of a single target burst that likes to get it started early, but doesn't match with the rest of her team.
Elise has no value here against this team composition. Thresh, Kalista, Victor, Gragas, and Set. It's very mid-rangey, spikes at 2 items, and then it starts falling off of a cliff relative to who the opponent's champions are. Gangplank up there in top lane doesn't actually counter Set. Set is favored in that matchup. The other thing about it is that Victor's favored against Gangplank too, so I don't even think that we can have lane swap shenanigans. Elise completely out of place with all the other champions.
Yeah.
And then you have the Blitzcrank into the Thresh for fire versus fire. I don't know what to make of this, Valdez, but I'm not surprised.
Think it will be fiery, as you were mentioning. There's going to be a lot of fighting. I hope, I pray that we can get some fighting here between the two guys that love to hook in the bottom lane. The only thing is that Afrika, they're in the mid lane, in the top lane. They're not going to want to fight, really, at all. So maybe Ornn and Elise could get something going onto a champion like Victor, but honestly, once he starts, getting those upgrades and just one-shotting waves, he becomes very non-interactive, which is, again, not a term we like to see too much here at the LCK.
Well,
again, it could also be just a thing where we've seen this before, where players are like, "Oh no, I've been having really good games on Elise. Like, I just really want to play Elise," and they'll go for champion comfort and just like priority in themselves, instead of trying to mix and match with the team composition. Not saying that it's good or bad either way, but
yeah, and I mean that
does happen.
It's a very big problem, and it really does feel like watching every region so far. I know that some North American pro players have even spoke about this. It seems like the overall level of play is down everywhere, and so that, in addition to the drafts all just being a hot mess. No one seems to really know what is going on in terms of how they want to approach the game, because everyone is just having completely different approaches with very varying results all across.
I mean, that does open up exciting potential for one region or one team to mix things up and really figure it out before everybody else. If we're in kind of a transitionary phase where everybody's play feels down because they haven't figured out, you know, what is the current meta we're in or how to play on this patch, then it's more exciting rather than scary for me.
Well, Dove just really holding his lane. Gangplank can't shove here against the set, and Summit actually pushed too fast. So he's not going to be able to look for a cheater recall here against Gangplank. Instead, he's going to convert his lane crash into vision on the Golem so that they're able to know about Elise. And you can just see Elise already off to sinning.
She's trying.
She's trying to sin right now.
Yeah.
She's going to do it, a 3 camp into a random red side recall.
Definitely not ideal. She's going to pick up some more jungle items and a ward.
Well,
in an attempt to farm faster on Elise.
And now she's going to end up running up to the Golems in top lane. She's going to be spotted out by that, and we're going to have no action early on outside of thresh hooks or blitzcrank pulls or something of that nature. And this is why the Elise pick just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Now,
well, Keen has done a really good job baiting Summit into the fight, and it feels like Summit truly is baited. Can he turn the kill back on the Keen? He's going in there, but the Cocoon will land, and Spirit is going to pick up first blood as the timing there, very nice for Keen and Spirit to pick up that kill.
Gragas ended up almost getting a full clear off on his jungle. Summit, there's no reason for him to be taking those kind of trades against Keen when the wave is coming in. And you also know that Elise only has one gank timing opportunity. You look at mid lane, you know that she can't be there. Use deductive reasoning, she's not going to be bottom. And so, when you have the wards on the Golems as well...
This time Gragas is in position, so they're just going to elect to trade. No further damage will come out. This time on fleek. On time. Take a look at the CS difference in the jungle. Gragas at 28, Elise at 14. She had one chance to get the gank. If the gank failed...
If the gank failed, she's just out of the game.
It would be 28 to 14 still, and she wouldn't have a kill.
I've talked about this quite a lot on the broadcast. I think that Elise and other sinful champions that have to get ahead of their opponents, and then they end up falling off a cliff anyway. They fall down 4 or 5 levels of the top lane or mid lane, or they end up being useless. Because they need items, they need advantages in order to be relevant. It ends up falling off a cliff. And if you look at top lane as well, there is quite a big minion wave that Keen is waiting to pick up. He's still being zoned out of some of the CS, but it's a 24 CS lead, and that's only 8 minions in front of it. So 16 CS advantage still for Summit. Now you take a look at this. Summit, I don't know what you're doing right there as you trade onto Keen for no reason, because the wave is coming into you. He's obviously never going to push up and let you kill him in a million years if his jungler isn't present. So the trade is wholeheartedly irrelevant, because if you play out the lines, if you identify that wave as wave A, on wave B, Gangplank will never come up to you if he's in lethal. And so the trade doesn't really accomplish anything, so you skip to just wave C, or how you would conduct yourself on wave C, the third wave, and you play it out from there. And had he done that, not only would Elise have failed a gank, Summit would have been up in XP, and he also would have been up so much in CS, which 14 CS is a kill. So you do the math, and it was like Keen was effectively already killed.
Yeah, essentially. There was also a ward on the Krugs. So he knew, hey, Elise didn't do the Krugs. I wonder where she could be, you know. There was a bunch of information that was given to Summit, so a bit of a mistake there for him for sure. Doing well in the lane at least, but he's taken another trade here. Has the control ward down this time, so at least we'll see the Elise coming in.
And the thing about the Gangplank versus Set matchup is generally you want to keep Set around 50% HP. And the thing is that Gangplank traditionally, he wins his lane by out-sustaining the opponent, getting them really low with the parlays and things of that nature. But he can't do that to Set, because Set's HP regeneration is just way too high, and then Set's ability to return damage is also so effective. And so it creates this endless problem for GP up in top lane. And so right now, even though there's the handshakes happening in mid lane with the Ornn, and the Gangplank is falling behind, one of the real problems is, what is your Elise really doing? Gonna come over now here.
She's building Morello second. That's what she's doing. By the way, guys, on patch 10.3, I did want to mention this. Thanks to Riot for putting this up. Ornn 6-2, MF 7-2. As the knockup's gonna be big there. Onto the Victor, trying to trade it back. The cask is dodged. In goes Spirit. Just needs one more auto. Will take it down as Keen tried to help out there, and On Fleek, unfortunately, not able to turn that one around. As assist also going over to Keen, and another kill, though, will go in the pockets of the Elise.
That justifies the pick, Valdez.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
had nothing
just take
to
a look
do.
at the results, LS. Obviously, Elise was a good pick.
Had nothing to do with how Dove and On Fleek just played that. It was an absolute hot mess. From the Gragas missing the cast to the gravity field.
By Fly. He read it. He did. He backed off. Don't give me that look. But yeah, I mean, Victor standing next to the pillar. That's not what you do.
And so, if we're talking about honest analysis here, I mean, why is Dove standing where he is? And you can see On Fleek just throws it out, uses the E, throws the Q very early, and so Spirit ends up living there, but you can look at that in a vacuum and say, well, yes, Spirit has to do this, he has to get ahead, but when you view it from the perspective of the Victor, he's doing things incorrectly.
Yeah, it's more of a mistake, you know, rather than a amazing gank or anything like that, but it was good that they were able to capitalize on that one. That's one of the things you have to do if you do want to win games, capitalize on your opponent's mistakes. As with an early game like this, things are certainly going well for Afreeca to start off.
Yeah, they are.
If they can get ahead in the early game and around, 20, 25 minutes when the teams have 2 items, which is that power spike for Sandbox and they're ahead, even if Sandbox has that power spike, Afreeca from ahead could still potentially win fights, but they don't even have to take fights if they are ahead at that point. They get to sit back, try to scale up, delay the game, as we have seen so many times before. As Infernal Drake going to be the first one picked up here by Afreeca.
And at this point, Afreeca being ahead right now is not something that you would like to see if you're a Sandbox fan. Obviously, Summit up there in top does have a quite sizable CS advantage. And even if the Elise tapers off, the fact that she's the one with 2 of the kills in this game right now is really relevant, because it means that she will survive staying relevant inside of the game for quite a while longer, as the ornaments are going to start coming in as well. So it's going to be Trinity Forest for Keen. You're likely going to have Zhonya's Hourglass for Spirit, Abyssal Mask, and Sunfire Cape for Fly in mid lane. If he ends up building a Frozen Fist, honestly, I don't know what to say, Valdez. But
I mean, at some point you just have to expect it, right? Eventually you lose hope and you're like, well, this is probably what's going to happen. But let's see. Let's see if he goes for the good play. This lane looks to be evening out a little bit. It has that CS lead has kind of stopped around 20 minions, 17 right now. It hasn't opened wider, which can happen sometimes in matchups that are favorable to one side. But Keen, getting that scene, he's able to effectively trade better against the set and chip him down. Discourage set from taking those trades.
There's the Abyssal Mask completed for the Ornn. And Fly's just an immovable object here in mid lane. Victor never is really going to be able to itemize in a way that ever really threatens the Ornn by himself. And so Mystic... Now, this is one of the things, we've talked about it a lot on the broadcast. You rotate your laners to go and get the Herald. They've already missed one wave. They're about to miss a cannon wave. And so, Those two waves combined are a little bit over 300 gold, not even factoring in the XP. So when you end up doing that, you get 3 turret plates, and that evens out that, but the XP is never really accounted for. Now, Gangplank, he's going to end up getting some of the value from this wave, so it's not even like he's being denied, and you're losing an equal amount of turret plates in bottom. So if you view this game in isolation, in still photos, you end up seeing that the Herald, while it might feel good, it gives you that dopamine kick, it's actually a net loss in terms of the overall game plan and what you're trying to achieve. So Gangplank's now just going to have a pretty free
That hit him.
minion wave up there. The one upside, though, is Sandbox. They did get the first turret of the game.
They did, and there is a little bit of extra gold within that objective. But essentially, we are trading here. It's Sandbox trying to be proactive, but some of the little things you mentioned can come back to bite them. And we'll have to wait and see if they can actually make this spike work in their favor. There was a bigger gold lead before for Afreeca, but it has been closed up a bit here. Summit coming down to the bottom side after that recall and rotation of lanes. He's going to be able to pick up at least one of those turret plates, a little bit of extra gold in his pockets. Team's all tied up for now when it does come to the gold, as it's going to be either Cloud Soul or Ocean Soul. Ocean Soul seems just god tier for Afreeca. Cloud Soul, well, not sure what much that will do. Would be pretty nice for Sandbox, you can say.
Well, 50 seconds until that comes up. It's a really big dragon for Ornn in particular. Also, even the Blitzcrank, yeah.
Yeah.
They definitely want to get that.
Look at already the amount of resist that Ornn has. Missile Mask and Chain Vest
and
at
seeing
13
the Chain
and a
Vest,
half.
it makes me feel very relieved. It does mean that Fly, a bit of a savant, is going to be able...
He gets it.
Yeah, he's going to end up building the Sunfire Cape. So many people, they end up building the Frozen Fist. The mana's irrelevant on Ornn. He's never running out of mana anyway. And so all that you end up getting is an extra 25 armor in exchange for losing 725 HP. So, yes, you get the Spellblade proc.
I know I'm from NA, but that sounds pretty good for the Sunfire Cape. Based on those numbers.
Yeah?
Just
All
saying,
right,
yeah.
And the other thing about the Sunfire Cape is it amplifies the effectiveness of your magic resistance.
Yeah.
You have more HP for mages to try to chew through.
Everything is sailing wide right now. Nothing is hitting. Hook goes wide. Death Sentence, Cocoon, Barrels, nothing has hit. Everybody's full health. Now we're just waiting for the cooldowns to come up. Maybe try number 2 is the way. As you can see, Summit's coming from the top side. Mystic had to go to mid. Gorilla gonna take an insane amount of damage from that barrel. And just a couple of poking abilities. Goes to half, has to have Fate's Call used.
And so right now, if we're wondering why didn't Summit pull the trigger or something, Ornn can cancel with W. And so that's a little bit unfortunate. So Set doesn't actually have a lot of reliable targets. And we're at the point of the game where Sandbox should almost be favored, but they're not. Relative to how everything is played out, obviously the Kalista and Thresh sort of neutralized in the bot lane. They showed it very early, B2, B3. We see mistakes like this as well with Xayah Rakan that end up coming in on B2, B3 and then end up getting answered on R3 in terms of bot lane matchups. And these power duos in bot, they're just not as strong blind as they once were historically. And also just the overall change of the meta, very different. Summit ends up stealing Keen's oil.
Got a bit of a rotation, but seems to be spotted down the river somehow. Summit just not going to take the risk. Well read. And this is okay. Well, now he's going to face check, and now he's going to die.
And they end up
it was going so well for him
Yeah.
up until I said that it was going well, and then he decided, no, I got to prove this guy wrong. Typical caster curse. 0 and 2 Summit. Struggling a bit in this one.
And Keen now coming down here in bot lane. I think he's almost level 12 as well, so CS deficit all but gone. As we take a look at it, Summit has nothing to do, and he's in danger, which is why you can see he's even walking cautiously over to the left-hand side. He eats a cocoon.
Kane is 1v2 right now, trying to trade onto the Thresh, doing a nice amount of damage. Exhaust! Is that going to stop the madman that is Gangplank? It looks like it will, as unfortunately not able to convert on the 1v2.
It's still a very big loss, actually, for Sandbox. They invest Flash and Exhaust on Gorilla. And they end up also investing a lot of time just to bring Keen down, who really actually good decision by Keen, doesn't use his Flash. Ends up saving that, and so he'll have it for the Ocean Dragon, whereas now Gorilla won't.
Yeah. You know, he probably could have survived.
Oh, he absolutely
with
can.
Oranges and Flash?
Yeah.
But he just decides not to. So that's actually a really good read.
This is a bit bizarre. So the replay is saying that he doesn't have Flash, but in live, I do believe that he had it.
No, it came up too fast. I think that's like a replay.
The replay thingy?
Yeah.
The replay bug?
Where it doesn't correctly show the summoner sometimes. Like,
because he had it when Set was crashing, I believe.
Yeah, the Flash was coming up like a ghost. But if he did have Flash, good decision. If he didn't have Flash, well, point is moot. Either way.
You only kill Gangplank, you get the small boost of gold, but you're losing so much value around the next dragon, which ends up bringing the game to soul point, if Afreeca end up getting it. Oblivion Orb, picked up by Gragas, staring down all the magic resistance on the enemy team.
Yeah, picking up Oblivion Orb into upgraded Abyssal Mask is one of the it seems to happen really often,
and
actually.
Afreeca has the Mountain Dragon, which means that they have a little bit of extra stats that they're normally not supposed to have, which is detracting from that magic penetration. And so the Oblivion Orb is just not really a very valuable item in this game at all. The only champion that it's going to have some value against is Mystic.
Yes.
And that's only if the game doesn't go long enough to where he ends up getting some sort of magic resistance to account for On Fleek and Dove.
Yeah, I mean, he has heal. Maybe he can pick up QSS, eventual Mercurial Scimitar, just to handle even a Thresh Hook. Will eventually come in, no doubt. And, yeah, like I said, it's one of the more popular, common mistakes, I guess is a better word to say, as right before Summit died, I was going to mention that this is kind of the moment where we enter the lull state.
It's been a while, and that moment on our screen with Keen, that was a free spot. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
We look at the map right now. Can Sandbox dive the mid-tier 1 turret if Gangplank's freezing top? No. Can they do anything bottom? No. Baron isn't even up, and even when it is, can Sandbox just magically do it? No.
Ocean wasn't up for a minute and a half.
Right. Ocean's not up for a minute and a half. Keen could have denied this wave right now that Summit is walking up to. That could have just gone into the void. And so could the next wave, or Summit has to walk all the way up to unfreeze it, in which case Jelly can be there, Elise can be there, and you can just end up killing Summit, or demanding that On Fleek not be allowed to farm his own jungle and assist Summit in unlocking the freeze. So, had to drop the F word. I don't think I dropped that one yesterday on broadcast a little.
It's good to get it in there every once in a while, you know. It's pretty refreshing to hear it. As we're having another bit of a fight here. Those hooks are just so close every time. Jelly hasn't really been able to land a good one so far. Nice knock up here onto Set. Summit gonna take that Lantern to safety. Setting up a really nice formation here is Afreeca. All of the vision denied except in the mid lane, essentially. There's not even vision on the Dragon. They have a control ward there.
Yeah.
There's no teleport ward. No way for Summit to get in the backline or anything like that, even if he wanted to.
And now Afreeca are in such a fantastic spot as well. The ornaments have come in.
Look at this vision.
Yeah, I mean, everything is just so good right now for Afreeca. This is such a fantastic spot to be in. There's no reason to fight for that control ward, by the way.
Oh, he got pulled over the wall. Gorilla does have the Fate's Call, and now it's turning on them a bit. Big knockup by the Ornn, though. Trading 1-for-1, but Jelly is going to go down. Do they have the potential to 4v3? Bit of burst damage going on to On Fleek, and Sandbox looking to turn this one around. As the Gangplank ult comes in, and actually Ornn is going to get stunned up. somehow, some way, Spirit has to get out of there. Finally, the Ornhorn comes in. Orn is going 1v3. Look at this madman. Keen is like, oh, I got to help out the big boy down here. And he is going to be able to as Orn survives through everything that those three champions had to offer. And somehow, just like that, Afreeca are able to win this fight just barely.
Turn that back around after trolling the Blitzcrank pull onto Gorilla and also fighting needlessly over Luxury Vision at the entrance, the mouth of the river. As now, they're going to teleport Fly back down. This is going to be a really easy Ocean Dragon pickup, and what was looking like Sandbox were going to be able to stabilize and get at least one more chance is looking far less likely, especially when you have a Gragas building Morel and Omicron against Gangplank, Elise, Ornn, Misfortune, and Blitzcrank. So I feel like that really just encapsulates.
Hey, you gotta stop the oranges, you know?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's
and
the
also,
big thing.
please pay attention that Keen, he does have the Grasp of the Undying.
Yep. Take a look here. Gonna get into that backline to Summit, but he's not quite able to do enough damage. Nice cast, though. It's gonna blow Mystic up. Just like that, the Ocean Drake will go Afreeca's way. But the kills will certainly not, as Sandbox will be able to pick up, it looks like 3 on the back of that fight and look to push or take some other objectives because they need something in this game with the gold lead that they do have. Looks like the choice will be Baron.
They're going to go over to the Baron now. Keen and Fly both have their ultimates available, so Gangplank and Ornn definitely have the ability to start to stop this. Now Leo, fortunately for him, going to be able to pick up some of the fruits. Fly has Smite available, is also 2 levels higher than On Fleek. Sandbox knows about the Smite.
Fly's waiting for it. Can he get in there? He's such a tanky boy, but no, it will go the way of the Kalista with all the Ren stacks up. Fly this time, 1v5. Can you do it? They can't seem to kill him. Finally, they will. Hook is going to come in. Afreeca really trying to force this one. Bullet time entirely wide. Does just about 0 damage. As at least they will pick up Summit, but the Baron will go the way of Sandbox.
And Sandbox, they're going to keep themselves in this game with the Baron. The problem is that all of their lanes are in such an awful spot. Mystic is going to clear this wave out. Bottom lane is going to end up dissipating. Top lane is going to be fallen back to by Keen and consumed as well. So at the end of this, their jungle is getting pillaged. They're losing all of their minion waves that is going to be necessary to push with. Let's take a look at this as Jelly, a cosmic force, just convinces him to pull Gorilla immediately. Afreeca's positioning is horrendous at the start of this. And On Fleek, as well as just Leo and Dove, able to eviscerate the front line as they start cutting back into the jungle. Sandbox looking really fine in this spot, even though Summit wasn't there. Spirit.
Take a look at Daddy Ornn right here.
Oh yeah, he calls him the Ornhorn. He just had enough.
It's like, let me show you something.
He turns back around. Keen was able to get back in. Spirit flashes over the wall, got the flash out of Dove. As Keen playing this very cautiously here. Fly went into the pit, summons the Ornhorn, and ends up getting a really good knockup.
On Fleek could have died if Keen was in there, you know?
Keen's Gangplank ultimate could have definitely been positioned a little bit differently. Summit goes down at the end of this, but it's still sole point in 2.5 minutes. And Sandbox, their team composition is peaked. It's going to start going downhill from here. Fly's about to ding 14. That's going to be Molten Edge going over to Mystic. And so there's so many stats that aren't accounted for in the gold graph, as well as the base scaling. Gragas, he picked up the Morello, so...
hey, I got something positive. Wait. We have a Trinity Force here for Summit on the set. Okay.
You're always trying to look for the positives.
You know, there's something, I just had to mention it, right?
I had to take another photo for
your Morello collection.
The Morello Instagram
You
account.
just got to make you just got to make a real book that looks like Morello and fill it with pictures of people buying Morello.
That is actually a fantastic idea.
Yeah, there you go. Sell it.
I'm definitely gonna do that.
$59.99.
I just
Leandri salesman selling his Morello and Omicron. The Ornn item goes over to Mystic. Now, Mystic hasn't had the best game in terms of positioning.
No.
His bullet times have been not very good in terms of the times that he uses them. He does pick up a QSS, as I was mentioning, would be the third item. So is going to have a bit more survivability. He also needs Jelly not to pull a Thresh on top of him. That would also help.
I want to point out the dichotomy of man here
Yes.
as Victor builds the Void Staff, as Gragas
Yeah, Chad Victor, man.
builds the Morello. And now Afreeca, they're just posturing, waiting for the Ocean Soul to end up coming up.
Do you even have to force a fight here? Like, wouldn't they be better to just wait 5 minutes and say, oh, we have scaled even more beyond what you have?
You know what the really funny thing as well, like we're talking about Morello, we're talking about Void Staff and stuff. So many people will often say that it's an opinion or it's a perspective. Math isn't an opinion.
Yeah, just like science is not an opinion.
Don't care about your feelings.
Yeah.
Nor is the practicality of how reliable said Grievous Wounds can end up being on certain champions, or how likely it is that champions that build Leandries are likely going to apply it several times before a teamfight even ends up bursting out. And I'm talking about Gragas casks and barrels.
Well, take a look at the posturing here for the Ocean Drake. You can see Afreeca being very passive, waiting for their moment. In goes the Gragas ultimate, but Zed is just in the backline alone. Gragas is going to be able to pick up that Ocean. But how about the lives of Sandbox? The Ornhorn finally comes in, but it doesn't get much value as Sandbox are running away exquisitely. Doesn't look like Dove is going to be able to survive, but a couple of kills to deny that Ocean Soul. I'd say that's worth it at the end of the day in a vacuum on that fight, but still the time is ticking here. Sandbox will have to see if they can have a magical fight sooner rather than later to try to win this one.
And we'll take a look at this. So Afreeca being very cautious to start.
Oh, I guess Mystic might just... Oh, they're not going to check there. In goes Gorilla, though. He's going to check there, but Mystic will survive for now. And a dodge on the cask, on that barrel, rather, as Ornn is going to get hooked, but he wanted to get hooked. He wanted to get in there. Exhaust gonna come up, though, as Leo's doing a great job of kiting this. Jelly and Mystic are out of this and not able to help at all, as Leo on that Kalista gets the room she needs to tear them down one by one.
And so at this point, Leo is putting on a phenomenal performance here, but you have to wonder what Keen was just doing, teleporting in like that. And Mystic, as you pointed out earlier on, definitely having a very off game. We do have to wonder, maybe it is something to do with the hair color, you know?
Yeah,
he's powered down from Super Saiyan God.
Yeah, he's cooling off now.
Yeah.
He's going into the gray.
He's gone into Master Roshi territory.
Yeah.
As Elise also picks up the Fabled book.
Nice, nice. In we go now. They are doing the Baron as some Vision has to get in there. Fly with no smite this time around. Spirit, no flash. As a lot of damage does come down onto On Fleek, but the Ren alongside Gragas is going to get them in there. They will take down Gragas, it looks like. He's going to go over the wall, though. Take a look at Leo going 1v2, but the hook is going to be there. And finally, it looks like 750 gold did go down onto Mystic as he gets the shutdown, but another Baron over to the side of Sandbox.
So Sandbox are really managing to keep themselves relevant in this game. And it's honestly so surprising because normally when they fall behind or when things aren't going their way, things do start destabilizing for them and they tend to fall apart really quickly. But here, just take a look at Keen. He spawns into this fight with about 45% HP. Just ends up getting completely cut down by Leo. Fly having to flash there away from the Haymaker.
And he just gets exhausted immediately as the exhaust, an interesting pick into the team of Afreeca, but it seems to be quite useful so far in a couple of instances up against the Gangplank. Just rendering him useless a couple of times. Summit here, after that early game mix-up, is going to take it very slow on the bottom lane push. 0-5, but he's got 5 assists. He's the big tank of the team. He went straight into Stone Plate, so when he does dive into the back line, he can be quite tanky to survive and get that engaged potential for the team. Create room for Dove and Leo is really the only objective for Summit and On Fleek in this one.
And the gold score, pretty close. Still Soul Point coming up in a minute and a half. Afreeca Gonna be really keen on trying to get that. The Baron is gonna persist almost until that ends up spawning. So that's the good news for Sandbox. And now because Elise didn't go, Zhonya's second item can't be given an Ornn item just yet. Wonder how close Spirit is to actually getting it. As Jelly almost has the redemption for the upgrade as well. So Zhonya's Paradox and Salvation just waiting to be constructed by Fly. A lot of just free stats. And Sandbox, they're just trying to keep the wave shoved in. They're going to want to fall back and try to get that Ocean Dragon. And it is really crucial that it just doesn't go the way of Afreeca, because at that point, it is going to be near impossible to win a team fight. However, on fleek with the 5-head play with the Morello purchase, it would come in handy.
Yeah, you know, up against Ocean Soul, not half bad. Maybe he was predicting that they would pick it up, and he bought it before the Zhonyas for some reason. Could have stayed on Oblivion Orb up until he absolutely did need it, but decided against that. As the push was essentially ineffective. They weren't really able to take out any inhibitor turrets. They will stay up, but they have created a lot of room for themselves to go ahead and take that next Ocean Drake. It's just going to be given over to Sandbox, as they are still a long way away from Ocean Soul themselves and any hope of an Elder or anything. We got to wait 10 more minutes, and that's if, you know, the Drakes are taken right away, which is never the case. So we could be looking at 45 minutes by the time they even get a chance to pick up that buff.
And this game is really turning into a very awkward kind of lull state where it's just constant Baron dances into pushing lanes, but not really much that can be achieved. Sterix almost going to be completed for Summit soon. I think that Dove is really close to Rabadon's death cap. As, yeah, you heard that, Wolf?
Yeah, that was
a little, the Wolf
I didn't know Warwick was in the game.
Yeah,
but
howling.
He's like, please pick me, it's been so long. That's
it really
what I
has
say
been
too.
a while.
Yeah.
Now, how many champions? There's 9 champions, right, that still have yet to be picked in competitive globally?
Yeah.
I think it's 9.
I remember the list. It was like
Amumu's one of them, right?
Amumu, Teemo, Udyr. You know,
Oh, man.
there's a list of those sad boys down at the bottom. But
I'm actually curious what ones are actually viable that just haven't been picked yet. And so, a little sad that doesn't end up happening. As, okay, well, all of the solo laners are 17, 16.
Yeah.
The junglers, on fleek, actually doing a pretty good job. A lot of that is obviously from both of the Barons that ended up being picked up. He's level 15. Elise sitting down there at 13. She's been there for a while.
You know, she had that great early game.
Yeah.
And then, for some reason, now I can't quite put my finger on it, but for some reason, after, you know, at about 25, 30 minutes, she
Sooner
stopped
than that.
doing anything.
Yeah. That was
What is the reason behind that?
not totally sure.
I don't really get it. I mean, she scaled up with the Morellos and everything. Like, God, it just doesn't make any sense. Seriously, in the last, like, 2-3 fights, she's been cocooning, missing. And then,
Yeah, and then
I
she
hope
can't-
someone else engages or
Yeah.
they attack me so I can attack them. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of chill. And that's exactly all she's been doing here.
Well, let's see what ends up happening. Right now, we are in the K-Ram.
Baron,
It's honestly a rite of passage here.
it's just like a normal thing in 2020 now.
It is.
Happens like every game. It used to be a not so common occurrence, but nowadays it's pretty common. We do have the Baron up. Ocean Drake in 2 minutes.
And Spirit. Oh, here we go.
They say, Gragas, you're out of position. Maybe we can catch someone here, Summit. In a bit of trouble. He is going to be just burst down out of nowhere along the wall. Says, witness me, Ornn. And certainly they did. takes him down just like that. Doesn't matter if he had stone plate or anything. He might have just been CC'd the entire time.
Yeah.
Goes down here. Dub's got to be careful. He tries to burst Keen, and he nearly does, but nearly dies himself on the backside. As he actually died to the Chaos Storm. How did the GP not outrun that? That was insane, and now they're going head-to-head here. Fly going to be knocked into the wall. Spirit is going on a tour of the jungle right now, checking out the Raptor camp. National treasure.
They had the kill, so why were they still in mid? I need to see how Keen died.
Yeah, I mean, that thing is not very fast. Maybe it caught him a route like it went over the wall or something? I don't know.
Oh, man. Well, now Sandbox are going to be the ones in control. Now, the cherry on top is if Sandbox goes for the Baron and just concedes Ocean Soul. That's the cherry.
Well,
what?
They're going to get the hook here on the Blitzcrank, who is not really able to get that Aftershock down, but the Chaos Storm is in there again, takes out Jelly. Summit not able to do much on the backside. Mystic still alive here, trying to 1v5 right now. He's got Ornn creating some room, and here comes Keen. Fly over the wall, and so many low members on the side of Sandbox, but they can't quite catch him. They are going to get dubbed, though. He is going to be burned down, and now Summit has to get away, and you can just feel the Gangplank. Finally, it's coming online.
And so right now, Summit doesn't have teleport available. He's not even going to stick around. I guess there's no honey fruits that are available in close proximity. Afrika, they're going to get the Baron. They're going to convert that into Soul Drake. Take a look at this team fight. Summit up in mid for no reason whatsoever.
He didn't have time to use any items or anything.
Yeah,
CC'd 100-0.
Nothing makes any sense. On Fleek misses the Gragas Q, and then Keen walks back into mid. There's no minions or any reason to walk that way. Barrels
Let's take a look here.
What?
He can't see it.
Oh, it's invisible.
He can't see it. Oh, man.
That is very surprising.
That's a sneaky little Chaos Storm he got there.
And right here, they walk up a little bit too far. Set gets one of the kills and then immediately goes for Mystic instead of staying on to Fly.
Yeah, and Mystic just makes him look silly.
Yeah, so Mystic gets away, Fly comes in.
And
Leo.
TPs, it's all over for them.
Yeah, and Dub can't even stop to hit the Honey Fruit right there. Mystic would end up getting onto him and killing him. And now Ocean Soul, I believe, also picked up for Afrika. And I really think that's all she wrote. I just want to give credit, by the way, to Dub. I do see the Haunting Guys.
Yeah.
Which means that he was building Leandries, which you can get too.
Yeah.
In the store.
They
next
sell
time
that
you're
in
playing.
the store,
They do play, yeah.
How much is that? 3,100?
Now, actually...
I think it's about that amount of gold. If you guys save up your gold, you might be able to take that down.
Well, I think that we're just going to get one more team fight, and the healing on Afrika is just going to be way too oppressive.
Well, thankfully, Gragas has a Morellonomicon. Great item selection here by him.
He knew that this moment was coming, much like Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And he held
25 minutes ago.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
He held up his cask, and, you know, there's one chance.
Well, Spirit is struggling to exist. He not going to get hit by that hook, at least. Dove is beginning to do some pretty insane damage. As the only guy who doesn't really take too much is Fly on their side. Jelly also decently tanky, building up some more MR.
Well, looks like they're slowly pushing in mid lane. They're trying to coordinate this with the top lane as well. Keen walks backwards, ends up buffing the Baron minions, but the issue is that they're misaligning these waves. So as GP crashes, mid lane isn't ready, and then as GP crashes, mid lane isn't, or yeah, what I just said. But then as mid lane crashes, top isn't ready. And so, here we go. Finally, the waves are going to come in. For an ultimate.
Yeah, just trying to zone him out here, but actually Bullet Time That Zonya's coming in real handy here for On Fleek. He is going to get away. They don't hit the turret, though. It's really not that much damage done to the turret as they were just railing on the Gragas, who had Zonyas. And it buys Sandbox some time to keep their turret alive, and now the Baron buff is gone. And I think we're just going to have to wait another 2.5 minutes to get onto that next buff that does come down on the map. And right now, it kind of does feel like Sandbox's one big hope is the Victor. He's been really nuking people down. But that's if Afreeca does run into him. They got to be careful to get away and out of range of that Victor if possible.
I want to point out as well, Leo should actually sell the Lord Dominix in order to get Mortal Reminder. Because when the opponents actually do have Ocean Soul at this point, the extra armor penetration is going to be less valuable than being able to apply the Grievous Wounds. And at this point, we're back into a little bit of a lull state here, Valdez.
This is a late lull state. We're in the later term of this game. And like I said, I mean, just kind of have to wait 2.5 minutes unless someone makes a mistake. The LCK teams are not one to group up as 5 and try to invade or catch the enemy off guard.
Well, yeah, I don't even know what to talk about, right? I have no idea what to talk about. And
okay.
We're ping-ponging, we're waiting for Baron in a minute, and then we'll have a Baron dance, a team fight. The victor will end up either ending or obliterating the opponent's base, or if it's not a clean enough victory, end up capturing the Elder Dragon and then recalling. Then we'll have another team fight.
And then obliterating them.
Exactly, see? I really like how you're following along here.
Yeah, I'm reading the script too. I know what's going to happen. We've seen enough games like these. And it's getting pretty late. We haven't had a lot of super late games here in the LCK. We're at 44 minutes just about. We're looking for that hook. They're going to find On Fleek. See if they can put down the wards and deny this. The knockup, it is going to get him, and Blitzcrank shows his value once again here right before the Baron. It doesn't look like they even want to go for the Baron. They just want to push or fight.
Okay, well, they do have the Orn Horn. That's a really good angle.
Oh, the Cocoon! It finally does something in this game! It catches one of the members into the flash hook. And now with the Orn Horn, it's not going to be able to do too much, but Summit should go down, and it looks like Afreeca, they don't need no buffs. They're just going to push in and take down the game here, as game number 1 should go the way of Afreeca. Sandbox, they do not have their wave clear. They don't have Victor, and they have no way to take down these waves or the members of Afreeca. Game number 1 will go down to the side of Afreeca. GG. As a long drawn-out game, but it eventually goes to the side of the Scaling team.
That was something. That game was really something else. As I don't know what to say right there. I thought that we were going to get a Baron dance, but then we just got another KRAM where another pickoff happened, and then immediately following, there was a team fight that just resulted in the end of the game. And so it's a lot of posturing for nothing. And so Afreeca, they were starting to lose control in the mid game very briefly, but eventually managed to bring it back around. And Sandbox, there was only so much Victor could do once the game got to that stage. Leo was having a phenomenal performance early on. Summit doing really good in the laning phase, except for that one overextended death. He was really just riding Keen in the CS department. Not much able to be achieved in mid lane. And if you're Sandbox, I was so impressed that they didn't just completely collapse when things started heading south.
Yeah, they held on. They had a couple of carries that were actually quite well built.
Yeah,
you know?
they were very well built.
Even though their comp wasn't ideal for the timing, they had a couple of guys that were on their game, and they had a bunch of items. So there was still a chance. as it looked like a bit of a blind hook over the wall.
Yeah.
As I don't think there was any vision. I think that blue ward came down after he hooked him there.
I mean, I think there's actually a really good argument for Jelly getting MVP. Probably won't because it's a support player.
I thought about it, you know?
Yeah.
I really did think about it, but his early game was a bit... There were a couple of mistakes in there. I don't know. It was a very difficult MVP vote for me.
Yeah.
I did end up going for Mystic.
At the end, Spirit did get the Cocoon into the follow-up Blitzcoat.
Yeah.
But Blitzcrank actually saved them at so many points in this game. I mean, Orin was actually really reliable at turning very, very decisive fights. The Dragon,
if
you remember,
to give MVP to a champion, it would be Orin.
Oh, Orin just did so many insane things this game. So, because he stabilized them at the Dragon fight, where he just turned it when Spirit went over the wall with the Repel onto the Blast Cone, ran away for a little bit, and then again at the Baron, he made the Baron attempt, he also built the ornaments. So,
there you go. That champion's pretty good. Gets another win under his belt. Who will get the next win? We'll find out after the break.
미드부터 하자.
얘들아 미드 선푸시하고 바로 잡는 거
나
조심해.
그래비쳐 여기 조심하고.
얘네 가격기 세.
거기 조심해.
맞을게. 괜찮아.
그래 빠졌고. 너 깔아줄게 이거.
얘들아 이거 바로 잡으러 먹자. 야 나이스.
가자 이대로.
세트부터.
아 그래 세트.
세트 오플 쭉 미드로 가자. 내가 잡을게. 야 끝내자 이거.
미드 가자 이대로. 세트 높을.
잡았어.
나이스. 그래 빠졌고. 앞으로 가볼게 이거.
리버 해줄게.
야, 도노경이!
너
뭐야, 너란 거!
모두 잘 맞췄다.
아,